pancake, 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 pancake. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And milkshake? My name is Shahir Dowd.
And this is the only podcast about one movie.
Just one movie.
Just a singular film.
There is a podcast that does that. I know we're the only podcast about movies, but there's a podcast, and it's from New Zealand, and I think it is quite popular. They they watch Grown Ups 2 every day.
There's a couple podcasts that do that. There's one that does Sex and the City 2 every day, or they review a minute of it, or like something.
That's the popular thing as well.
Yeah.
Like there's an Indiana Jones one where they do 1 minute of Indiana Jones.
So we are not the only podcast about movie.
No,
we are the only podcast.
You take that back.
No.
You take that back.
You didn't listen to what I was saying. I said we're not the only podcast about movie. Like I said in the beginning, it was a mistake. We are the only podcast about movies.
I trademarked movie and movies when I took our podcast to the patent office.
The what office?
The patent office.
Were you very patent?
Yeah, I was very patent with my patents.
Jesus Christ.
Patent is how you would say. But
specifically the film Ralph Breaks the Internet. That's what we're reviewing today.
Ralph should break the patent office.
But Shahir, how are you?
I'm good. I feel like I sound like I'm hungover, but I'm not. It's really weird.
You don't really drink.
I think it's because I have a cold, so I'm just kind of recovering from cold. And it's freaking freezing out here right now in the streets.
Yeah, it's not pleasant. I hope you are listening. When you are listening to this, dear listeners, you are in warmer and more temperate climates.
And the thing about it was I walked to the movies in the cold last night. So I just want everyone to know, back in my day, we had to walk 6 miles to go to a movie in the cold.
Was it cold, though, when you had to do it?
It was real cold.
No, last night it was cold, but when you used to have to walk it.
Oh, I'm saying for like future listeners
who
will be like listening to this podcast. You and I are not on the same way.
No, we got to get back.
Can we like do like a time cap?
Sure.
Sort of like a beep, 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 beep.
Oh, I have to beep. Oh, beep, 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 beep.
Now we're in.
We're in?
Yeah, we're in sync now.
I don't think that worked.
I don't think we're in sync anymore. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. It's the day after. We're recording this on Black Friday.
Okay, Thanksgiving question for you.
Yeah.
I know you didn't get to, you're going to go see your family next week, right?
Yes.
You're taking the week off.
Yes.
So I had my family around, and I went to see Rick and Ralph. But what's your go-to Thanksgiving movie?
I don't know if I have one.
Oh, yeah?
I think the Thanksgiving movie tradition that I have is bringing back whichever film in the last sort of 6 months that I've bought and am very excited about that is family appropriate.
So what are you going to take to your family this year? What have you thought about it?
Well, you know what it's going to be. You're not going to be happy with it.
Please don't tell me it's Infinity War.
It's Infinity War. They haven't seen Infinity War.
I feel like our top 10 of the year is going to be very predictable this year. It's going to be very, very predictable.
To be honest, though, look, they watch all the Marvel movies because I make them.
Yeah.
And they can't get away. It's their house. And but I do honestly think I might actually just bring Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Oh, really?
Because I think that they will really, really enjoy that film.
Yeah.
And I think that
it's kind of more fun.
I think they'll like Infinity War because it's a culmination or it's the closest thing we have to one.
Yeah.
But like, it's definitely a downer.
Yeah. But no, here's the thing as well. Don't you need to watch Infinity War to understand, I guess,
No, because it happens. It happens.
Have we done Ant-Man versus the Wasp? See, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
We have.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can kind of officially spoil. No, I mean, we're not going to.
There's a thing at the end of it that has to basically Ant-Man and the Wasp takes place almost like the entire movie right before Infinity War technically does, and then there's an after credits thing that makes it all whatever.
Okay, so my go-to Thanksgiving movie would probably be Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Why? The traveling aspect of the holiday?
Well, they're traveling to try to get back for Thanksgiving in the movie.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, and I just love John Candy and Steve Martin in that movie.
They are great.
Yeah, I think they're one of the best on-screen duos ever.
Yeah, I think so. Thanksgiving and screens, I'll say, have an interesting history with me because my family is especially on Thanksgiving is sort of like a football family. Like they want to watch the games and the pigskins be thrown around.
Yeah.
And I've never had an interest as much as I've tried to get into football. I'm a movie kid.
Yeah.
So like
you could watch football movies with him. You could watch Rudy every year. Rudy would be a great Thanksgiving movie.
Yeah, but I find that sports films also don't quite resonate with me a lot. Rudy's fine. Rudy's good. I mean, of course. But I don't think I'd watch Rudy every year.
What about the Last Boy Scout? That would be my other football go-to movie.
Sure. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's ever been like a football. Now we're really tangenting off the thing. Like a football movie that I've been like, pumped for.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it would be Rudy. Any given Sunday.
The closest sport type movie that I can think of is like boxing stuff, like Rocky or Real Steel. But then we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves.
All right. So if you have a Thanksgiving movie that you love to watch, let us know what it is at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter at onlymoviepod. I think we're gonna try and maybe do a Christmas episode again. We did Die Hard last year. I think we're gonna try something different this year.
I think. Sorry, I'm going back to Thanksgiving movie. Real Steel, I think I might want to make my. No,
it's not a thing.
It's a real heart wrenching family dysfunction tale.
It's a real steely tale
with
of
Rock'em
family,
Sock'em robots.
Yeah, of family dysfunction.
That movie's good. Hugh Jackman is a treasure.
Yeah, he is a treasure. Although he got in a little trouble not trouble, but there's a thing happening on the internet.
Okay,
which is I'm gonna try and segue this.
You got it. I believe in you. I believe in you.
Internet. But there's a thing going on the internet, which is that if you are in any way associated with the current administration, you should be critical of it, especially if you are a liberal, left-leaning person. Like, you shouldn't be complacent in your acceptance of what is going on.
Sure.
And it turns out this week that Mr. Hugh Jackman is good friends with Ivanka and Jared Kushner. Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner, and he was
good friends.
Yeah, good friends. Like, you know, they go to parties together. She sends his family gifts, kind of thing. They've known each other for a long time, and he was asked on The View, I believe it was, like, well, what do you think of what's happened? You know, her influence on the, and he was like, well, I don't. We don't discuss it, and I try not to get involved in politics with my friends. And I thought that was I get what he's trying to do, like, and his point is kind of clear as well, because what he's saying is, look, they've been my friends since before Donald Trump was president. So do I abandon my friends once they become, once this happens? But on the other side of it is, maybe he's not seeing it as crisis point as other people are.
Well, of course he's not, because he's Hugh Jackman.
He is Hugh Jackman. So he came under a little bit of flack for that,
I get that. I feel like it's funny. The amount I love Hugh Jackman is the amount of like rope I will give him to tether himself at this particular point.
Yeah.
The I don't talk to my friends about politics thing works when neither of the parties are in politics
or a direct advisor to the current president.
The second that you actually become a bit of a policymaker or someone that can actually affect the world, as opposed to just being like, did you know we never landed on the moon? Like that sort of stuff, then your responsibilities shift.
Right.
Depending on what you believe in.
Right.
So
it's kind of a curious. It's a curious case of Benjamin Jackman.
I would, yeah. I'm sure that's a tough thing, but also,
like for example, Matt, if you became president and you were suddenly putting kids in cages, kind of thing,
right?
I would have to say something about it.
Yeah,
right?
Why wouldn't you?
I would have to say something about it.
Like,
right?
That's kind of the thing. Like, I don't care how cool you are.
Right.
And we're assuming that Jared and Ivanka are cool in this particular case. And the only reason I've ever remotely thought that is literally this story. If Hugh Jackman is friends with them, then I was like, well, there has to be something okay about them.
But you see what just happened here is that I just gave you a story that happened on the internet, and it spiraled out, and we've started to form opinions about it.
Is it not true?
No, it's true.
Oh, damn it. That would have been the best exercise.
That would have been the best, like, Christopher Nolan, M. Night Shyamalan twist on this whole thing. No, he did say this. But I was just saying, like, in terms of connecting it back to our original, to the film that we're here to discuss, it is an example of how a particular idea can spiral out because of the way the internet works.
You are 100% correct.
Yeah.
Side note, I think actually the Hugh Jackman stuff is adding up, because if you look at The Greatest Showman, that is a completely clean, squeaky time tale of a horrible man. But because Hugh Jackman played him, we're all like, I want to sing the songs.
He's also got his film coming up, directed by Ivan Reitman's son, Jason Reitman, the one about the political candidate. I forgot the Gary Hart. I think it was. Yeah.
Oh, crap.
So it is,
am I gonna? Oh no, Q, no.
It's interesting though how you can become politicized. Even though I think one of the things about Hugh Jackman is he's defiantly anti-political, right? Like he's not a political entity. He's just a sort of, you know, like he's a very nice face, a good actor, but he's not like, you know, he's not injecting himself into political conversation.
There's a difference between injecting yourself, and when asked a direct question, being like, "Nah, bro."
Yeah,
Like,
I think that was the basis of his response is like, look, this is not an issue I get involved in.
But here's the trickery of it too. Like, why do you not believe that kids in cages are bad? Like that's the thing. Like, there's a point when you like, even if you could. I mean, again, it's totally different. It's difficult. It's not It's not a thing I can actually. I'm just trying to look at it from sort of both sides. On one case, now let's flip it. If Shahir, if you were putting children in cages, and I went up to you, and I was like, what the shit?
Yeah.
And then we got into a fight about it.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be like, well, I don't want to be friends with that person anymore. But like, or if you came to me, this is the other interesting thing, and this is in no way saying that Ivanka and Jared are fucking good people. I'm just trying to figure out a way that this makes sense and I can save my love of Hugh Jackman and his love of Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Okay.
If you said to me, when you're putting kids in cages, and you could be like, this is the least of the evil that I could possibly have happen. You should hear the shit that we are blocking and trying to do. This one squeaked through, and I'm appalled and I'm terrified, and we are working to fix it. But oh my god, they're literally going to start liquefying human beings, and Soylent Green will be real. And I'd be like,
I think that. Do you remember the op-ed that was written by the Republican White House staffer? Did you ever read? There was an op-ed that was written by because it was like at least 3 weeks ago, and the news cycle doesn't work like that anymore. There was an op-ed written by a White House staffer who basically said, "We are the tether, we are the safety valve on Donald Trump, and you should see the stuff that he's actually trying to do." And so, kids in cages isn't that bad. I don't buy that for a second. But
I don't particularly. I'm saying I don't buy that in real life as things are going on right now. I'm saying I'm trying to think of a scenario.
Right.
Anyway,
what a scenario that we should be trying to think about.
Take it back. Take it back.
The scenario we should be trying to think about is what would happen if one of our favorite characters, I'm speaking for myself here, favorite characters from a 2012 movie broke out of his video game world and onto the internet, which is the synopsis of Wreck-It Ralph, the sequel to the 2002 film.
Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Yeah.
This movie, it dropped 2 days ago, which is nice. And I saw it, I guess, opening night. I saw it, Shahir, at my buddy Stephen Buja of old Same Night Movie Review fame, and also Oscar Watch podcast.
See, now we're in sync.
Yes, there we go. You should check that out, by the way, if you want to see basically really wonderful breakdowns of every Oscar-winning film,
or hear them, just at least.
No, you stare, you see, you hear it so well, you see his beautiful face. But we went, and the place to meet up between Brooklyn and Queens is
Greenpoint.
No, we moved on to the island. We went to Manhattan because the trains actually would just run there faster. We went to Times Square. I know. I was shocked too. We went to the AMC, and I was like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
And obviously, every machine was broken, and the entirety of getting into the theater was a nightmare. But I went to this thing. It's another gimmick from a movie theater.
Not 4DX.
No, fuck that. We all know how I feel about 4DX. This is called AMC Prime.
Oh, this is what you've done as an alternative to Movie Pass?
No, this isn't the service. This is a style of theater.
Oh, okay.
Called AMC Prime or Prime AMC. And when I bought the tickets, they were like $23. I was like, that's expensive, but not like 3D expensive. So I'm like, what am I buying? It was the time we needed to go. So we walk in, and it's beautiful leather, like big, cushy, couch-like leather seats, the entire thing. They recline, they do all the stuff that's, very, very nice. But what this thing did is what I think RD 4DX or whatever should do. Like, they shouldn't do what they do in 4DX. It should never go past what AMC Prime is. And it was just super crystal clear sound, loud, not crazy, not deafening, but all of the subwoofers were you could tell were underneath the stadium seating.
Right.
So when things happened in the film, you shook a little bit, not like violently, but like almost like a bit of a very minor massage chair going.
Yeah.
And it had a sense of a little bit of extra immersion, but never enough where I'm was distracted by it, other than they do the whole thing to demonstrate it at the beginning with the 10, 9, 8 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the shit is happening? But then when the movie was happening, it was honestly a delight. And I would be curious Now, I don't want to go back to that theater, but if other theaters offered,
Just because it's Times Square.
yeah, if other theaters offered this Prime thing for a couple more bucks,
Yeah.
it's not a solution, but it is a balm. It is something that was nice that I wasn't expecting.
I realize I've actually been to that AMC Prime, and I saw Deadpool 2 there.
Okay,
And that was the scenario where there was a baby in the front row.
Oh, God.
And so the baby in the front row. So now you've experienced how loud that theater is.
Yeah.
But loud and clear. You know, it's good sound. But like now imagine all the gun shooting in Deadpool 2 and a baby in that screen. I have been to that theater.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. But but it is worth it, right? Like, yeah, the baby thing is not AMC's fault.
No. Well, I mean, they could not let the baby in, but that's neither here nor there.
I got into a conversation with an AMC staffer about that.
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, we just let them in, but like in New Zealand, it's illegal. You know, the theater can
Because
be
you care about children in New Zealand.
Well, it's the way the law works there is that the theater will be fined,
As they should be.
Yeah, if you know, like children are being let into movies that are not rated for children. Anyway,
I love the rating systems for everything in this country. It's like, don't watch this thing. Yeah, but what if I do? All right.
have you seen This Film Is Not Yet Rated?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's check that out. Okay, I feel like we have like avoided talking about.
We're
this movie,
okay.
and it's not because it's not a good movie. I think it's a great movie.
Transition back into it. If we've avoided talking about this movie.
No, because I had one more thing I wanted to talk about before we actually get into the movie. It's like you know what we're doing right now is we're taking the audience through like a walkthrough of like what it's like to go to the movies with Matt and Shahir. Like we're going to Times Square. Oh God, Times Square. We're going into the movie theater, and you're buying this ticket for the Amazon Prime thing, and it's got the sound thing. And now, and you
It's
know,
not Amazon Prime. It's just Prime.
AMC Prime. And now, and you know, the sound is kind of nice. And now, the one thing I want to talk about is right before the movie starts.
Okay.
I don't know if you had this in your screening, but a director introduction.
Oh, I did. Thank you for bringing this up.
The director introduction. So I went to see 2 movies this week. I saw Widows and I saw
I want to see Widows.
Ralph Breaks the Internet. And in both cases, they had the director introduction.
Really?
Yeah. And in Widows, it was like, oh, why are you doing this? And in Ralph Breaks the Internet, I was also like, oh, why are you doing this? Because there is something about like, I love thinking about the director, and I love thinking about the way a director works, and you know, and how they may have made choices in a film and that sort of thing. That's something that I'm really interested in. But there's something about seeing the director right before the film that kind of, for me, it just puts me off kilter. It makes me just like, it makes me literally have the picture of the director in my mind, like having conversations as I'm watching the movie. And I don't know if it bugged you, but it's like I don't know what function it serves and why movies are doing this now.
Hubris.
Hubris?
The function is hubris.
So okay.
I was audibly annoyed that thing exists. It's almost like a 2-minute long skit.
Yeah.
And it's a bad skit.
Yep.
And it didn't
awkward.
And it didn't put faith in me about their joke telling ability.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was going into Ralph Breaks the Internet. I'm like, oh God, like,
Yeah.
is this what I'm in store for? Because it's like the gag. I'm gonna give it away. I'm gonna spoil the director shit.
Yeah.
So in the beginning of it, it's the director and like 2 producers or something.
No, it's 2 directors.
Oh, 2 directors and 1 producer?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so they're, you know, older white men, middle-aged white men.
It's also what they're wearing, you know, like
It's
they're wearing
all-
suits.
It's weird, and they're all like, the joke is they're all like FaceTiming kind of, and so like they're talking about, they're like, we want to thank you so much for coming and da-da-da-da, and they're trying to do some funny things, and like there's like glitches in it, and it like has to buffer, and I'm just like, great.
Yeah.
And then after they go on and on and on and on for like a minute and a half, it's revealed that they're all in the same room, and they're like, how do I turn this off? And I'm like, this is the most tone-deaf shit. And I was like, why did this exist?
Yeah, why does it exist? And it's exactly what you said that, you know, it did for you is what it did for me, is it made me go, oh boy, I'm in for a rough one here. If this is like the level of comedy that we're going to get from these guys, then I'm not on board for this movie.
And I will say, the writer of the film had nothing to do with writing that tiny sketch.
No, I'm sure it was a marketing PR thing.
But that's what it comes down to, right? It's these men are trying to, and look,
or being
hustle
told
yourself. We all do it, but these men are trying to, poorly, in my opinion, basically do more promotion for themselves as directors and filmmakers, as opposed to just letting the film speak for itself.
Also, they're doing it after you've bought the ticket to the movie.
Also, they're doing it in a kids movie meaning no child. Like, I mean, we all adults can enjoy it too, of course, but like. I was trying to think, who is this for?
Yeah.
It's not for the children. The children just want to see the cartoon come up. It's not for the adults who are looking for the thing because the amount of humor in it is not the right kind of humor for an adult.
Yeah.
Or an adult with any sort of discerning taste.
Yeah.
I was like, you're literally doing it because you want your face on the screen.
I would say, because in the case of Widows, where it's Steve McQueen doing it, you can tell he doesn't want to do this. Like he's getting up there and going, and like they're doing all these hard
I
cuts.
get that.
You know, like he just doesn't want to do this. So I'm getting the impression I get is that it's something that they're mandated to do now.
They wanted to do that.
But this team decided to kind of like go off and like, oh, we could make something out of this. You know, like let's not just get up on camera and do something. Let's like make it a little bit of a gag. And it's a bad gag. It's
I love bad gags. I'm the Duke of bad gags.
Okay.
Like
You're Sir Bad
if
Gag?
you watch any of the recent extra credits episode, any bad gag in it, I did that.
Okay.
That was me.
Right.
And I love them.
Yeah.
And what I try to do is make sure that they don't happen. Like a lot of my bad gags on that series, I do at the end.
Right.
You've watched the entire thing. You've gotten what you came for, and now I've done a little extra thing. Maybe you'll like my cheesy humor.
Yeah, maybe the way to do this, maybe the solution is to put this at the end of the movie because it's like, oh, I've watched the movie now, and this will give me reason to stick around in the theater.
Yeah,
you know, like if
that's something that interests you.
Yeah,
something that movie theaters are doing a lot, and we will get to Ralph Breaks the Internet.
We will get.
I'm really getting pissed at the amount of not only trailers. I think there's too many trailers in front of films, but also like. I'm not even mad anymore. This is how desensitized I am. I'm not mad at the commercials before the trailers start. I don't care. Play whatever you want. It's also a socially acceptable thing to talk over them because the lights aren't down and it's fine.
Yeah.
But in this Prime AMC thing, they did like 4 separate 30-second big graphic and sound announcements, 3 of which sponsored by Coca-Cola. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I get it. Your theater's sweet. Like, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Like, do it once. Cool. Oh, and then there's like all the really dead-eyed film students that Coke pays.
I was going to talk about that. I was like, I feel so bad for these kids.
Describe it. Describe this. What we see.
So 2 kids, like it'll usually be 2 film students from like CUNY or USC or something like that. Hey, my name is Bob Johnson, and this is my film. And I was like, and I can just see they're slow. Like the thing I don't like about it is it's not a film. It's basically
a commercial.
It's a commercial for Coca-Cola, and basically they were told, hey, we'll give you the best tech, like cameras, whatever, and we'll play your movies nationally, and you'll get to be in front of it as long as the thing you show is how awesome AMC, Coca-Cola, and popcorn is.
Yeah.
And it was like, and so that's what every single one of these films are. And I'm like, oh man, this is, like if I was a film school kid, I would be pissed that this is like what I had to do. I mean, unless these kids are like walking out of this with like 3 picture deals from Sony or something like
They're
that.
They're not. And the interesting thing is they all have the same dead-eyed expression when they do the, hi, my name's John, and I'm Sandy. Enjoy our film.
I would love to have one of those people on the podcast.
Oh, if any of you, oh my God, please.
If John, Sandy, Roger James, whatever your name is, if you have made one of those films and are here to refute our impression of what it's like, I bet you probably can't contractually.
Of course not.
But try.
Yeah.
And, give us like blink 3 times or something like that so we know that you're in trouble.
Oh my God.
At onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter at onlymoviepod.
One last thing, every time, because the last line of that before the film starts, before the big Coca-Cola and popcorn and AMC commercial starts, they always say, enjoy our film. And I audibly say, not loud, just because I don't want to be obnoxious, I'm like, I will not. Every time.
That is obnoxious. That is obnoxious.
Because I won't. I will not.
No, nobody. That's the thing. This is, okay, last round. Last round. I know you're getting paid to do this, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, like popcorn. You're paying people to do this.
Big popcorn's paying them.
Yeah, but recognize at some point that bad jokes don't connect. Like nobody is remembering this stuff unless the aim is just impressions through volume. Like you just
it has to be
seeing enough of the Coca-Cola product to go, I hate this joke, but man, am I thirsty. So anyway, okay, now we're sitting in the theater.
Yep.
Ralph Breaks the Internet begins.
Yes.
Yep. The Disney logo comes up bigly on the screen.
Yep.
As it does. And we're back in. Now, here's the thing about Ralph Breaks the Internet, about Wreck-It Ralph.
Yes.
I loved Wreck-It Ralph.
Wreck-It Ralph is wonderful.
Cannot remember it for the life of me.
I remember. So that's the thing, because this movie, Ralph Breaks the Internet, has a lot of themes.
Yeah.
And I was like, what was the theme? I didn't want to look it up, and I didn't want. And let's see if we can dissect.
I actually did. I watched a little like summary of it.
So then you can maybe correct. This is my memory, because I'm in the same boat as you. I owned that movie. That movie's in a cabinet 50 feet away from me. So Ralph's the bad guy of an 8-bit video game.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Felix. Everyone hates Ralph because he's the villain. He has nowhere to go. He doesn't feel like he belongs. He's never felt like he belongs.
Yeah.
And then also another character who's a bit of an outcast, Vanellope, von Schweetz or whatever. Is in a game called Sugar Rush, and it's a racing game, and she glitches all the time, and they both sort of are misfits and outcasts and don't feel like they belong in their respective games. Like,
and then the other thing is that he transitions into her world. He figures out how to get into her game.
Well, all of them. I think at this point you can always go into the other games because of the power.
I thought that was a thing.
Or maybe like they. Yeah, I don't know. Because all the different characters, like the villains, have like a support group and like all that stuff. And then the bad guy in that movie is like the gumball guy who's like the mayor of Candy Rush or something, who's actually like an evil character from another game and tries to stop something, and then like I don't remember. So
that's about it.
I guess the theme is finding your own family or where you belong.
Yeah, figuring out what it is, and not adhering to the idea of you that is already out there. You can be whoever you want to be.
Yeah, there we
go.
Be
who you want to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what the theme of Wreck-It Ralph was.
Yeah. Okay.
So wait. So where were you go? You said you loved Wreck-It Ralph.
But I couldn't remember.
You couldn't remember the plot.
I couldn't remember the plot for the life of me. Now, admittedly, it was 6 years ago since I saw that film. I only saw it once. Took my wife to it. We saw it in New Zealand. She loved it. She absolutely loved it. And I remember really enjoying it.
It's also very, very. It is a Disney-fied or a childlike view into the world of the good and bad of video games.
Yeah.
Which it's a great sort of starter point for people that like. Either aren't really familiar with video game culture, or that like can be like, I remember Pac-Man, like and I'm always a fan of smart things that do that make people outside of the gaming community feel included in the gaming community based on something that they might remember, without dumbing it down. Like, again, this is a show that I like, but I know a lot of people have a problem with in my community. Big Bang Theory. Big Bang Theory is super geek light, and
it's not just your community that doesn't like that show, by the way.
It still prints money, so I don't understand what's happening.
If money was the only barometer of whether a show is good, then we would be in a very different world.
2.5 Men coming back for season 97.
Yeah.
But like, that's something that I don't always respect, the way they handle things that are parts of my life, but I still like the show, whatever. Wreck-It Ralph took something that's a big part of my life and not only portrayed it respectably, but also I think did it in a nice enough light where people that are not part of my cultural zeitgeist can be like, oh, this is nice and fun, and there's good things to it. So I really did appreciate that. That doesn't happen a lot in sort of geeky, gamey sort of culture.
The way I would describe the way I think that works is kind of akin to what Toy Story did for young men.
Yeah,
is that it is about, there is a nostalgia element to this, and it's not about video games right now.
Nope.
It's about it's targeted at a very specific group of people, and those are people who transitioned from arcade games and Ataris and Super NES and that kind of thing into PCs, and so they have a little, because it does mention like the new world of multiplayer combat games and that sort of thing, played by that character by Jane Lynch. So I think it's very specifically about those people. It's not targeted necessarily. I mean, hopefully younger people now who grew up playing iPad games and who grew up playing Minecraft will have some interest in it. Yeah. And this is the real distinction between for me between this and Ready Player One. Ready Player One it feels like it's immersed in a culture that is of now. Like it's very much, it's not people who played Pac-Man and that sort of thing. It's people who grew up playing Minecraft. That's what Ready Player One is kind of about.
Ready Player One, you need to kind of understand what an MMO is before you can actually know what's happening.
Exactly. You don't need to understand any of that. Now, I'll say straight up, Ready Player One is a bad movie. It is a bad movie. I did not like that movie. I really enjoyed Ralph Breaks the Internet because I think, and here's kind of my initial thoughts on it. I think Wreck-It Ralph, Ralph Breaks the Internet, whatever you want to call this franchise, has the potential to be kind of like Toy Story Light. Which is that it is appealing to this nostalgia, and what I like with the sequel is it's opened the world up into something bigger, in a really sort of smart way. Unfortunately, the only distinction I would say is that Toy Story, and maybe it's my demographic, maybe it's my age group. When I saw Toy Story and I grew up with those films, is that those movies really resonated with me. Those movies brought me to tears and weepy tears kind of thing, and they have a strong place in my heart. I think Wreck-It Ralph really functions well. I think Ralph Breaks the Internet does some incredibly smart things and manages to be of the now in a way that few films could do. It manages to be of the now without getting too specific so that it would date within a year.
It gives you the feeling of the now without giving you specifics.
Yeah, and the feeling of the now isn't just going, oh, here, we're obsessed with BuzzTube in this case, or YouTube. We're obsessed with memes. We're obsessed with, cat videos and that sort of things. It also is of the now in terms of what it's doing with sexual politics and gender identity and, the politics of where we are as a culture right now and how we're transitioning. And I think it does that really smartly with Ralph. Which is a really surprising, and also I just went to Disneyland with my 5-year-old niece, and we visited a lot of princesses, and she was dressed up as Elsa a lot of the time, and I loved what this film did with those characters. Now it is still a Disney product,
really.
Yeah, they are very much telling you all the time, hey, we are a Disney product, but it does that thing which is what The Simpsons used to do with Fox, with Fox all the time, which is that it was able to gently poke fun at that.
And that's the only way you can pull off something like this, in my opinion. You need to understand that your audience seeing just a bunch of shilling shit will be like, fuck you. But unless they're like, oh, the movie understands that it's shilling to us, and it's also kind of bucking the trends of the thing it is actually shilling, and that counterbalances it while you're still getting the shill in.
Yeah, and I think that, I don't know if this comes from the director, but one of the two directors are Phil Johnson and Rich Moore. And Rich Moore directed some of my favorite episodes of The Simpsons.
Wow.
He directed the Cape Fear episode, the King of the Hill episode. He directed a lot of my favorite episodes of The Simpsons and Futurama. So I think he was kind of in that sweet spot where those shows could be really subversive while still being on the biggest network on television.
I wonder, and I would like to spend a lot of time on the princess part of this, but I wonder how long the meetings were about the script of that.
There was an interesting one. The only one I can find on the internet is that they had to remove a joke about Kylo Ren. So they had a gag about Kylo Ren being a spoiled brat, and some ongoing gag about it, and they had to go to Lucasfilm or Disney, Disney's Kathleen Kennedy probably, and they were like, no, he's kind of the main villain of our series, so for you to poke fun at him would kind of undermine our series. Of course, that's completely undermined by the fact that Adam Driver then went on SNL and did the whole routine about being a spoiled kid.
Yeah.
So it's weird, but reportedly that's one of the gags they had to remove.
I think they want Kylo Ren to be this generation's Darth Vader.
Of course, 100%.
And Darth Vader, honestly, was weirdly enough, despite the prequels, is still not a joke. Darth Vader looks stupid. He looks cool-ish.
Oh, he looks cool.
But if you think of the pantheon of costuming at this point, it looks silly. Now,
you know what it is? Is his costume looks silly in the wrong light. In the right light,
it looks great.
It looks amazing.
But what I'm saying is, despite all of these things, for whatever reason, you see Darth Vader and you're like, oh shit! If I see Kylo Ren, I know logically in the film world he's incredibly dangerous and unpredictable.
Yeah.
But I'd be like, there's a thing about it.
But that's because we kind of know he's a spoiled kid, right? And I love that. I like that about them. Okay, we're veering off from
bring it back.
No, well, I want to hear your thoughts on Wreck-It Ralph.
So look, this film I'll say straight up, I enjoyed a lot of it. Obviously I can nitpick here and there, and I will.
Yeah.
But I was thoroughly impressed with the fact that how dense this film is, and I actually, I equate it to sort of how we viewed or how we talked about Suspiria last week. Go check out that podcast. We did that. We talked about some dancing witches. Where Suspiria, I felt like, was a bit scattershot, and granted, the ammunition was all things that I really liked, like supernatural, horror stuff, witches, really pretty people doing awesome dances, like
string confetti dance, string confetti outfits.
Sure, all that stuff that is in my life every day.
Yeah.
But it didn't hit any particular target I think it was pointing for me.
Yeah.
This film, again, in the beginning of it, while I was watching it, was so scattershot, and I was like, what? Okay, what, are they going to pull this off? And then by the end of it, they really, every bit of scattershot that they shot hit the proper target for me.
Yeah.
This movie is a PG film about the internet culture and how and social media image. It is a PG film about growing up and how you have to change with your personal relationships. It's a PG film about the fluidity of how, like, not everything is going to stay the same with people you love and care about.
Yeah.
And it's a PG film that the villain is toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, like you did that.
The other reason I just thought a lot about you during the movie.
Where is this going?
I was like, I wish he was here next to me right now.
Oh, that's sweet. That wasn't where I thought you were going to go.
My wife didn't appreciate it,
Well.
but yeah. but I thought a lot about you in that this movie I felt like was targeted at you in terms of like the things it's talking about and also the issues that you're interested in
and how it's talking about them.
Yeah. So I was like, part of me was like, oh God, I hope Matt likes this movie, because I feel like if he doesn't like this movie, I don't know.
Broken.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to talk to him about this movie, because I feel this movie is like 100% Matt.
Yeah.
You know?
And you know what? Side note, I've talked to a few people before doing this podcast about how I felt about this movie, and I've been trying to temper back my love of it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be like, it's the best thing ever, you have to see it right now. Because then people will be like, I mean, it was fine. Like have you noticed this here? And actually, listeners, onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com. How do you talk to your friends about films you actually want them to see really badly? I, at first, have tried to be like, this is the best, you need to see it. And then they always come back and they're like, I mean, it was fine.
Yeah.
Because you blow up the expectation. Yeah. I now actually... Normally, I'm like, it was very good. It's worth seeing. Actually, you know what? I felt like I'll pick like a nitpick I have. Like one nitpick I have about this, which we don't need to talk about much because it's not too important, is I feel like a lot of the supporting cast from the previous Wreck-It Ralph kind of phoned in their voiceover performances.
Huh. Okay.
Like it felt like Jane Lynch and Kenneth from I can never remember the actor's name.
Kenneth McBrayer.
Yeah. It felt like they had like one day and they just rushed through it a little bit. Like everyone else's voice acting in this felt very like I don't know, they had a lot of time with it and they could really find the most perfect tone. And for every time they were on the screen, I was like, there's something weird.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So like I said that, I was like, it's a great movie. I loved this about it. But then like there was a couple odd things. I purposely lay out, if I want someone to really like a movie, I will lay out like one or two stupid, tiny, bad things in my review of it as to not overblow it. And then I've found in the research I've done in my own lab that they come back and they're like, it was amazing. I didn't have any of those problems. And I was like, yes.
You Jedi mind tricked them.
Perfect.
I think for me, my biggest thing is if someone hasn't seen the movie, I try not to even have a conversation other than I think it's worth your time or it's not worth your time.
Yeah.
Right. Because I don't want to like temper. I don't want to give them like ammunition to walk into a movie with, like with a predetermined idea.
Yeah.
So what it means is I don't have a lot of conversations about movies outside of this podcast.
Saving it up.
No, this is my outlet. So the thing here is, the film kind of sets up this kind of impossible task, which is that it needs to convey how the internet works. And then it needs to do it in a way that is appropriate for a kid's movie, but doesn't necessarily shy away from like the stuff that we know the internet is about.
Yeah.
Like, and I think the film kind of manages to strike a a really effective balance where the world is kind of set up so big and so large that you know that the shitty stuff that we know about the internet is in there somewhere, but not within the frame of this movie.
It peeks in every once in a while.
Yeah, you see little, like pop-up ads, the dark net kind of thing. You're like, oh, like sassy housewives want to meet you. You know that's sort of like code for like there is porn on the internet.
Yeah.
Like if you just go 2 clicks away from where this world is pointing, you're going to be in some dark stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really smart, like a very difficult task to do. Now, to me, the thing about it is that it's a world. The challenge that these filmmakers have is that it's a world that we're intimately familiar with, and like we know exactly how it works. So there was a kind of delight in seeing how they visualized it, but it's like at the same time I kind of know exactly how this world works. Whereas for example, in a film like Inside Out, it was like it was creating a whole new language for how my emotions work, and it was like, oh, I've never actually thought about the world in those terms. So there was something like magical about the way they did it in Inside Out. Whereas here they're trying to like, basically give us a code language for how to deal with the internet with 2 video game characters.
Well, also, so rarely in media these days do we run into, either as a joke or not as a joke, characters that don't know what the internet is.
Right.
So, for instance, the last time that there was it was a minor plot point of a film was honestly Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Oh yeah, where they didn't know how the comments are.
They're like,
work.
what the fuck is the internet?
Yeah.
And then Ben Affleck explains it that it's basically a place where people go to share opinions about movies and pornography with one another.
Yeah. I think in Family Guy, Quagmire has recently discovered the internet, and the amazing thing is he comes back with his left arm is really muscly now.
Yeah.
He finally discovers what the internet is for.
So like with Wreck-It Ralph in particular, I like what the internet is for. It's for one podcast about film
and pornography.
Thanks, Ben Affleck. So the interesting thing I think here about Wreck-It Ralph, or about Ralph Breaks the Internet, is it takes the language that we do all understand.
Yeah.
And the first thing to get you in the door before it can actually feed you the important shit that it needs to feed you is like not only understanding the world, but showing you that world in a fun, entertaining, and unexpected, yet once you sort of see it, logical way.
Right.
So one thing that I really enjoyed about it was how avatars of people or people surfing the internet moved.
Yeah.
And you click on a thing and that instantly turns into a little car and it zips you somewhere to go to that thing as if the internet was a city. So it's combining 2 structures I understand, the internet and a city, and I now know how that like these characters move about in this animated form. It does that very quickly, and I enjoy that a lot.
Yeah. And without too much explanation.
No explanation. You just the visual language of this film is amazing.
Yeah.
Also, this is a bit of a tangent, but it kind of ties in because it's the same amount of effortlessness.
Yeah.
The beginning plot of this film, I guess this is a minor spoiler, but due to Ralph trying to spice up Vanellope, who feels very sort of stagnant. Ralph loves his stagnant life after 6 years, and Vanellope is starting to feel a little bit like there's got to be more than this.
Yeah.
Ralph tries to make a new track in her game, and that causes a rift between the player and Vanellope controlling the car that she's driving, and the kid who's playing the game accidentally breaks the wheel. And the MacGuffin that they're trying to do this entire time, because it's so expensive, is getting a new physical wheel for Vanellope's arcade game, because they were just going to trash the game if they didn't do it, because the wheel was so expensive and the arcade owner couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
So they're going to the internet because they heard that there's a place called eBay where they can get the wheel.
eBoy.
Yeah. And then they figure out like, oh, they need money, and then they figure out what money is. And like it goes down this sort of rabbit hole. But that's not, I like it because that's not what the movie sort of is about. That is the catalyst that you think might be the most important thing when you start, but it is definitely not the most important thing when you finish.
So the way I would describe that is like it's the escalation of story that is continuously engaging, right?
Yes.
Like the movie never stops to kind of just have a chase sequence or something like that. The chase sequence is actually explaining the logic of a game that is critical to the narrative.
Yeah.
And that's kind of always been one of my big things about like most action movies right now is that the fight sequences just kind of stop the movie to kind of have a fight, and they're not really telling more story.
Right.
And this is like every everything that happens kind of builds on the previous thing that happens.
Yeah.
And I kind of love that.
Yeah.
Even and like I won't spoil what the ending is here, but like the ending has got nothing to do with that beginning.
Nope.
It's a complete escalation.
But in such a rare case that it's great.
Yeah,
like
it's brilliant.
Normally when that happens, you're like, you forgot what you were doing. This movie never forgot what it was doing.
No, it's a really, really smart script.
Yeah.
I think my only criticism, and it's a personal, it's one of those things that we've identified as personal criticisms versus rational criticisms.
Yeah.
And my personal criticism here is that the movie didn't resonate as strongly as I would have hoped it would have, given how good the story is and escalation of the previous film.
Interesting.
And I think that just has to do with like either not being connected to this world, and it's something that Pixar does really well. Pixar stories are really good at like connecting connecting the audience to the story they're trying to tell. And I think for me, I would guess that there's some fun or something emotional to be had about the idea that people just aren't playing arcade games anymore, and like it would be fun to have like this, like to have Vanellope's game like be taken away from the arcade and trashed or taken into someone's home. But that's exactly the story of Toy Story 2.
Yeah,
that's exactly what happens in that. So I'm don't mind that they didn't do that, because then if it was, the first thing I would say was like
Toy Story did it.
It's a Toy Story 2. Yeah. But while the ending is emotionally strong, and I think the ending kind of like gets to a point where I am having emotional moments at these two characters, like resolving this movie. Again, I'm trying to do this without spoilers.
Yeah.
But I think the slightly problematic thing for me is that at the beginning of the film, we don't sense Vanellope's unease at Ralph's codependence of her.
You do, though.
I felt it obviously when
middle to the end
when he starts like being absolutely 100% toxic male. But at the beginning, he's like when he gives her the thing she wants, she's very excited about it. She's really happy about it. And I'm not. It just kind of like I was like, as a story arc, I
get what you're saying.
I like it, but I didn't think it was as strong as I think it could have been.
I thought this at first, and then I sort of played back the sort of beginning as much as I remembered in my head. I was like, what were the signs that Vanellope was actually not comfortable with this? And it starts when her game gets taken offline and they have to live in the power bar or like whatever, and she's sleeping around, like she has to like crash
sleeping around.
No, but you know what I mean. She's like crashing on the roof of like Ralph's building or whatever, or in the pile of bricks, building a car out of it, which was very sad. She doesn't. The thing that happens is she only glitches when
she's insecure or unhappy.
No, well, when Ralph is telling her a solution or what she should be thinking. It's a weird. It's super light, and it did not hit me at first.
Yeah.
But during conversations, I thought, oh, she's just randomly glitching because she's uncomfortable. But then I'm like, oh no, it's when Ralph's like, well, you could just live here whenever you want, and then she's like, and like it's moments. It's super small, and I want to watch it again to make sure I'm correct. But that's where I saw. That's the only time I saw that.
I agree. I think that's a very subtle point, and I think it might be true. But the only other counterpoint to that is Ralph also eases her glitching. Like, so for example, when she's like upset when they're in the internet and they don't know where to go and where are they going to, how are they going to figure this out? He's like, hey kid, don't worry about it. We could go ask that guy. He seems to know a lot. And she stops glitching because he puts her at ease.
So that's an interesting point about how dependencies are formed, because not all the time when a toxic relationship, when one person is fully dependent on another, that builds because sometimes it's helpful. And then your brain starts crossing those sort of wires, and you're a person that might not be good for you starts to register. You at least start like acting as though like, oh well, they still have my best interest in time, because remember that like one time, like whatever. And like even if the percentage of good versus bad starts switching,
but it's not as crystal clear.
It is not. It is
as like, for example, the middle of the film when Ralph really wrecks it. So we should go into spoilers at this point.
We're about we're in it. We're in it.
Don't worry. It took us a long time to get to the movie theater, to buy some popcorn, to sit through those director introductions, and
give shit to film students. Sorry,
Sorry,
everyone.
film students who go on to like 3-picture deals at Sony that we will never.
Of course, but if they ask me to enjoy that film I watched, I will not.
Oh, you'll get them good. You'll get them real good. Nailed ya.
Zing! Take that, future of cinema. I'm a relic.
So yes, okay. So they go into the internet, and again, this was the thing that resonated for me here is having just visited Disney World and like experience. I'd been to Disneyland in California, but I did it when I was like 18 years old or something.
Oh, so this was I didn't realize this was your first time in Disney World.
Yeah, complete first time in Disney.
Shit.
And like it was the first time I started appreciating how much of a monolithic brand Disney is, and how much of Disney World is a branding exercise. You know, like how much of it is like we have created brands, like we have created these princess brands, and we are going to reinforce those brands not through dress, through the way they speak, but also through iconography and what they stand for. You know, like Marshall McLuhan would have a field day with Disney, but it's like and the thing that, you know, like, again, I took my child and my niece to this as well. It was like seeing how they responded to branding and how much, like, branding has come home with us now, and it's kind of about our, you know, like, that's how our kids kind of interact with the world a little bit now. What I loved about this movie was like just the fact that as soon as they go to Disney World, the Disney portal, I think it is, or something like that.
My portal did no.
Well,
it was a website that they went to.
How much like you know, and I guess I understood it intellectually, but never really tactically until I went to Disney World. How much Disney owns everything. You know, like Marvel, Star Wars, Toy Story, Pixar, you know, like all those things are all within the Marvel.
All the Disney stuff.
Yeah, and also, but not even just that, like even independent cinema. Remember, Disney used to own Miramax.
Yep.
You know, so like Disney has and Disney owns a lot of television as well. So it's like Disney, as far as our entertainment goes, Disney owns almost all of the intellectual property within that world and is very, very conscious of how to like place that, you know, how to target certain viewers for certain things and how to, like, you know, dissuade viewers of certain things. And what's happened is young girls, young children, you know, particularly young girls, princesses, have become lumped into sort of one category of identity. And I think that's what this film kind of like just gently pokes holes at with the scene where Vanellope meets the other Disney princesses, you know, who all say a big strong man had to save us at some point. And I think what it's, you know, again, it sort of has that weird dichotomous relationship where it is a Disney property. It is, you know, it is eventually they, you know, the next time you go to Disney, you might see Wreck-It Ralph toys or a Wreck-It Ralph ride, or, you know, like Ralph is going to become part of the brand identity, if not already has at this point. But it is poking holes at that identity.
Well, so here's the truth of the matter is they've been shifting the princess brand for a little bit now. If you look at Frozen, the entire plot of Frozen is literally shitting on Disney princesses.
I actually haven't watched Frozen yet.
Oh, wow, then I won't say more than that, but it's great.
I've been to like 2 Frozen sing-alongs right now, but I haven't
look, I love Frozen. I have no problem. You know, it's always popular to hate something that gets like super, you know, because even popular things can get annoying. Like I heard Let It Go way too many times. I started to not enjoy the song, but like the movie itself is great.
Yeah.
But Disney has had sort of a slow but steady path of being like, we realize our princess trope is ridiculous and we are changing what it is. Right. This is a natural extension of that because they're old characters that are still, you know, whatever. And some interesting stuff happens. And this goes back to how Disney is a master of how they should shill to you or how a brand should be.
Yeah.
Case in point, minor spoiler. Vanellope, everyone when after they're having a couple jokes about like who they all are, they're like backstage on the internet. The joke was all the princesses are there for a almost like a BuzzFeed-esque type, like, which Disney princess are you? And like people answer the questions and then they're revealed that they're like best friends or something.
Yeah.
So after they talk for a bit, all the princesses are like, "Oh, I love your dress," to Vanellope, who's literally just in like a comfy sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you know, I've never seen anything like this. This is amazing. And then you realize, oh my God, they're literally commenting on like how they're all in fucking corsets and ball gowns all the fucking time.
Yeah.
And then this is why it's so fucking genius. They cut away and all the princesses are now in like comfy clothes and they're like, this is the best.
Yeah.
So you're dismantling a bit of patriarchy sort of right there. Boom. Done. Check mark off the box. Then you have the idea that, No, let me rewind. That is the culturally good thing that Disney is doing with its brands. It's poking fun at itself for enforcing a stereotype, and then making, that now no longer sort of enforcing it. But what they're doing on the side
is enforcing it.
All those shirts that the princesses are wearing are excellently graphic designed, and I guarantee you they will be sold. And I was looking at it, and I was like, oh, they're doing the Overwatch thing.
What's the Overwatch?
Overwatch has a bunch of different apparel that I've noticed a lot of people that are into. Again, Overwatch is a much small, obviously, than Disney. It's a much smaller thing. But like they do different phrases or iconography that have to do with characters that could also pass as a regular shirt that is not Overwatch.
Right.
The Disney princesses either had phrases or like an apple or like something, and it was all like the same, not the same style of art, but the same type of like, by the way, you probably want to buy this.
Right.
Like, so they're doing a good thing while also doing a sales pitch to you.
Yeah.
And I feel like, at least for me, and I don't know, I can't speak to obviously everybody. I mean, I will, but I shouldn't.
Yeah.
I like that. I understand that you are a gigantic business that needs to print money. I understand that. As long as you are honest with me, and not only honest, but also clever with me. You need to be honest sort of in certain things that you tell me about why you're doing a thing. Also, be very clever in how you sort of do stuff. Don't just try to like do basically what Coca-Cola does in the beginning of films now. And it's like just literally trying to overwhelm you with Coca-Cola imagery in hopes that you'll remember that time you had a Coke and it was tasty.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's very smart and savvy, and it's the kind of advertising I want, as opposed to a lot of the brute force advertising with people that maybe aren't as good at it or don't have as much money to be as good at it.
Yeah.
I liked that moment because it did both a really good thing while also still keeping the company's bottom line afloat.
Of course. I mean, this movie is going to make a ton of money. The movie is also going to sell products from here on in. And it is, I think the thing that's fun about it is it's reflective of the way we as consumers kind of interact with our favorite brands. Now, whether we interact with our favorite brands like that because we're kind of conditioned to do so is a slightly different story. It would, like some would say that the way, the other thing is like the Disney is kind of self-cannibalizing its own brands at this point, until they inject new things. Like, and I'm sort of still struck by why didn't Inside Out become as culturally relevant as Toy Story? Because I think Inside Out does more positive for the world than, like it's not selling. I mean, they might sell you toys, but they're also talking about a language for how to codify your emotions.
I think it's because nostalgia at this point in cultural society, nostalgia is okay.
Yeah.
And sadly, dealing with your emotional distresses often in public polite society is still not okay. There's a lot of stigma to mental health.
I would just hope that conversation would change slightly. But again, I'm not no haterade here on the topic. Again, when I took my niece to see like Frozen sing-alongs, what I liked is that like she saw characters that were empowering for her. Of course, you start getting into real specifics here because it was like, oh, there are no characters that are her color. Or characters that are blonde and blue-eyed and that sort of thing. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just difficult for her to find her place in that world.
Yeah.
So, or it will be pointed out to her in some way. And it's subtle, but it kind of reinforces that. Coming back to the movie, I think the movie, its job isn't to like tackle all the woes of the world kind of thing. It is there to kind of like do a smart enough story that resonates with the world we live in today, I think in a smart way, and still like poke fun at itself, at the world it lives in. And I think, like the best episodes of The Simpsons used to do and the best episodes of Futurama, I think this film actually does that.
Yeah. There's this particular moment when, the algorithm who works at BuzzTube, played by Taraji P. Henson, who is, it was great. I thought
delightful.
Her and Gail Gadot, Gail Gadot, they killed this 100%. I think the voice acting was a delight.
Funny. It's funny you say that. So I guess I'm not as well versed in what quantifies like good performance and bad performance, but I didn't have an issue with Jane Lynch or Breyer but I actually thought Gal Gadot, for example, I kind of recognized her voice.
I didn't. And that was what I liked about it.
And I didn't think she was doing. I liked her in it.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is it's not the performer's work. I'm sort of trying to understand your point here about.
I
phoning it
believe
in.
this is the weird thing, and maybe I have to go back and watch the first one, but I felt like both Felix and I forget Jane Lynch's character's name.
I forgot her name.
But they in the first movie felt like rich. Not even felt like. I know they had more screen time, but their voices and the way that they talked about what they were talking about felt nuanced, and you could feel different tenors and inklings sort of in their performance that made it very like they spent. It felt like they did a million takes. They spent a lot of time. They worked, whatever. Da, 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 da.
Do you think that's just a factor of the fact they're just not in this movie that much?
I do.
Yeah.
It's not even their fault, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's because I bet you they did only go in for a couple days because they're not the mainstays of this film. They don't need to be there that much. They probably did it enough where they were like, this is good. But this movie felt like those two actors doing a caricature a bit of what they remembered their old characters were. And I don't think it almost was like not reined in enough.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the one that does that is Bill Hader as the Spammy or something like that.
Fine.
No, but the reason I kind of like noticed it was I was like, oh, this is the exact same voice as his character in Inside Out. You know what I mean? So I was like, and like for example, at the end credits, they were like, they did like a whole full page splash of Ed O'Neill being the arcade owner, and I was like, he had like one line in this movie,
But I bought it.
So my point there is, I didn't think any of those performances were bad. Like I thought all those performances were good. I just think they're just not in the movie. And it is what it is. Like I actually liked, is it Mark? Whatever his name is, Felix. Felix's moment in the
In Tapper was the only time I actually bought it.
Yeah, and I like the idea that he's like suddenly become a dad, and he's like, oh, they're breaking my stuff, kind of thing. I like that.
I wonder if. Because the two scenes that really bugged me with him were when the kids first come to their apartment and at the end when they're at the Sugar Rush sort of stance. And it was when both he and Jane Lynch were probably in the booth together.
Right.
There was something weird and off. And I need to watch it again. And again, I'm sorry I'm harping on this. I feel like because there's not a lot of things to harp on in this film. Like this is my one thing. The only thing that pulled me out. Gail Gadot's performance, I believed 100% that it was this. What was it?
Shank.
Shank.
Yeah, I thought she was great.
And the game itself was amazing. Slaughter Race.
Yeah.
Side note.
So Slaughter Race is meant to be like Grand Theft Auto, right?
Yeah.
It's like an open world racer.
Yeah. Slaughter Race. In this place called Slaughter Race, better be on the Oscar list of best songs of the year because I think, I don't think it's going to win, of course, but I think it should be on there because it's clever, it's funny, and it's a good song. And it plays literally into some of the tropes that we were just talking about. The princesses, when they're in the thing, they're like, oh, if you're having trouble figuring out what you want to do, just reflect on yourself in a pool of water. And Vanellope's like, what? They're like, yeah, but it has to be important water. Right. And then you realize that like that's stupid as shit, and like you'll find your song, and then like then when Vanellope sort of finds her song, it's ridiculous and very Vanellope. And Sarah Silverman, I feel like we didn't even bring this up, and John C. Reilly, both fucking kill this.
Yeah,
I think.
they have a lot of fun with it. I think like John C. Reilly is kind of doing what we expect John C. Reilly to do, but Sarah Silverman is kind of. She's giving us. She is the counterpoint to him, and she's a very effective counterpoint to him. Like she's all bubble and energy, but like with a undertone of neurosis, which works.
Well, so now let's get into a bit of the sort of the meat and potatoes beyond Disneyland sort of thing about this, and between the second and third parts of the acts of this film, you start to realize that Vanellope's unhappiness might not just be with the fact that she is bored.
Yeah.
But that now that this world, she's always felt like there's a world bigger for her, and now that she might have found even a place she belongs in, even more than the place she originally never felt like she belonged in, and then they sort of made a place for her in.
Yeah.
And on top of that, because Ralph is so happy with his particular way his life goes, he doesn't want to see her change really or leave, and he becomes increasingly. And I wouldn't even call it villainous. He becomes increasingly selfish in the friendship. He he keeps calling Slaughter Race stupid, even though he knows that Vanellope's having a wonderful time in it.
Yeah.
To the point where later on in the movie, he does something to try to sabotage the game to get her to come back to want to be in Sugar, basically to manipulate her into staying in their little life that they've built.
He's gonna wreck it.
He's gonna wreck. That's the other thing. He wrecks everything, in like it's everything he does. That's like something that's that bad to even like the stuff that starts the plot off is just him breaking shit.
Yeah,
and that's
he's the main antagonist of this film.
That's the through line. He does just break stuff.
Yeah.
He breaks the sugar rush. They owe money because he doesn't understand how bidding works.
Yeah.
He literally breaks the internet, quote unquote, Kim Kardashian style, because he gets so popular for like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And then he breaks the internet because literally the thing he tried to do to the Slaughter Race game comes back to bite him in the ass, and the villain of the movie, spoiler, turns into be the weakness and the vulnerability of his own emotional state that morphs into a ever-cloning, basically computer virus that is incredibly needy and only wants to hunt down Vanellope.
And I think that's genius, by the way. I thought that was like such a clever escalation of the story at that point. I was like, even because they introduced that idea very late in the second act.
Yep.
So I thought that was just really amazing writing and really clever.
Searching for vulnerabilities.
Yeah, I love that. And like I loved how the virus kind of looked like the Eye of Sauron as well. But you know the thing is if I was to codify their relationship in some way, while you can understand, you see the toxicity in the relationship in terms of like Ralph just wanting to keep things the same and not letting her go. But the other thing is there was something about the way the relationship is kind of played where it didn't feel like it was necessarily toxic. No, it is toxic, but it wasn't necessarily toxic in the way that like two people who don't know each other become toxic to each other.
Oh, is it very personalized?
No, and this felt very much like parent and child kind of relationship. Sure. Like this is a parent who's unable to let go of their child into the world. You know, like he keeps calling her kid, for example, as well. And there is this, even the way they kind of interact towards the end of the movie is very much like a child calling their parent home.
And he's like has the medallion thing that she gave him at the end of the first movie. That's a very sort of like I feel like paternal. Like, look, you made me this thing. Like this is how we are now.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And I think, and there's something about that relationship which is a little bit more innocent than, say, a toxic friend. You know what I mean? It can be bad. Don't get me wrong, but it's just the way, because they kind of couch it in the sort of parental terms. It feels much more gentle, and I think that's
what's the PG-ness of it.
And that's where like the idea that she doesn't feel as, you know, like at the beginning of the movie, it doesn't feel to me like she's as kind of like suffocated by him. Like it's only because of very specific actions that he takes later on in the movie that she decides, you know, that she needs to reject him.
Well, it's because before that, their relationship was never in a place where she had any opportunity to see how he might be, not on purpose, but manipulating their friendship to sort of stay in a specific lane.
Yeah.
And she might have that undercurrent and that feeling sort of underneath, but never really, you know, it never came to the surface until certain things happened. Hence why I think.
But and I think that may contribute to the why I kind of, it's because there's such a sort of gentle tone to it, that a gentle tone to the toxicity of their relationship that makes me not as, you know, like, and this is a minor critique. I really want to say that it's not a major thing, and I think you know, this is one of those films where if it does resonate with you, it will work very, very well. I just think, you know, for me personally, I was like, oh, I think I needed a little bit more latitude in the range of their relationship to kind of to understand the arc of the film,
right?
In a sort of clear way. But it is really good. It's really, really good stuff.
Yeah, and just in case, I know people tend to like this. We didn't do it in the beginning because we got so derailed. If you're wondering what IMDb says the plot of this film is, I think this isn't a good one, Sheer. I'm just putting that out there.
Okay, all right. Let's just do
6 years after the events of Wreck-It Ralph, Ralph and Vanellope, now friends, discover a Wi-Fi router in their arcade, leading them to a new adventure. That sounds accurate for the first.
Well, you don't want the movie to give away the entire thing. I think that's a perfectly acceptable.
I just wish it was a little more complex.
No, I think for if the aim of the synopsis is just to get people in the theater, and it's basically saying 6 years later, Wreck-It Ralph was going to go on the internet. I think that's cool. You know, some of the things, some of the opportunities that I think would have been interesting in this film. And again, this is ideas that may be terrible, but it kind of like I was like, oh, I'm curious what. Now that we've broadened the scope of the Wreck-It Ralph world, it'd be interesting to see, the meme idea, like people like going back to nostalgia, like people in more sophisticated
The what idea?
Memes, like MAMEs.
Memes.
No, MAMEs, so emulators.
Oh, the MAME is an emulator.
Yeah, MAME is an emulator,
Yeah.
but so
A
emulator
ROM is the program that plays the game.
So it'd be
or the
interesting
game
to like
itself.
see like people reacting to the nostalgia of like bringing Wreck-It Ralph back because his character becomes so popular in that world. And I was kind of curious about like I would have thought like a nice button to this movie would have been the fact that like a nice storyline that I would have wanted to explore is the owner of the arcade kind of like having to like face up to the fact that everyone's on the internet now and that games aren't as popular. But then because of like Ralph goes on the internet and becomes popular, suddenly his arcade becomes popular again and people are coming back to play Wreck-It Ralph because they're so enamored. I just think that would have been like a nice through line or just an interesting opportunity to explore. Again, this movie's got a lot on its mind as it is.
I know. I was thinking that too. One thing that always got me about this game that I'm happy they never tackled because it's kind of like a, well, how does this work sort of thing, and I don't think the films need it.
Yeah.
But both films never deal with the fact that there are multiple copies of a game out there. Like the first film, you're stuck in the arcade, so you understand that it's a closed off environment.
Yeah.
This one, I was waiting for the thing where like they ran into themselves.
Right. They ran into like maybe a ROM version.
A ROM version of themselves, or however you want to do it. So but again, I think even dealing with that gets a little too much into the weeds, and unless the joke is amazing, like it's not doing anything, so who gives a shit?
Yeah, and this is that thing we do where sometimes we're like, oh, what could this movie be as opposed to what this movie
But this
is.
movie's a lot of things.
This movie is a lot of things, and it works really well.
Yeah.
It works really, really well.
I think, man, I like the idea of, and then at the end, I mean, they do a lot of catharsis and tie-in stuff too. Like at the end, Ralph's falling and the princesses save him.
I love that.
It's random. But I liked it because it's literally like playing against a thing like now the girls are going to save the guy.
And I love that they put him in the
Snow White dress.
In the Snow White dress, and he's like, "Oh, this is not a dress for big boys. Here, let me just try and fix that." I love that.
Yeah.
I think that is a really good example of poking fun at where this film actually comes from.
Yeah.
And I think it's very effective and it works really, really well.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I dug this a lot. I guess final thought would be like, this is a film that is a hell of a good time, but also has a lot on its mind and a lot to say, and it gets it across in very concise and powerful ways. I shed a tear at one point at the end.
Yeah.
It was a really great movie-going experience that doesn't just play off of like the nostalgia I think the first one kind of did. Like the first one was like, look at this great positive representation of various things in gaming culture. This is more of like, look at the internet. There's a lot of great stuff, but look how it can actually twist you into kind of a monster. It even dealt with at one point, and I kind of wish, again, going back to your thing, what could it have been? When Ralph sees the comments on his videos he makes.
Yeah. You wish you went to Jay and Silent Bob on it?
It puts into a spiral. No, they go and punch. They go to the houses of Jay and Silent Bob and literally beat up everyone who comments on them. How many people want to kick some ass?
Yeah.
But Ralph like gets really hit by it, and I think that actually damages his ego even more and pushes him more towards being more controlling because he's worried more that like no one likes him. Vanellope doesn't like him.
He kind of dismisses it right away though.
But
like he's like, oh, this is the only thing that matters to me. Since it doesn't matter.
Well,
People have hated
causes
me.
Him, but here's the thing: it reminds him. It puts his neediness to a fucking focal point, and that strengthens it again because he was getting recognition for a while, much like you can on the internet, and then it goes away. I hate to bring it back to extra credit stuff, but like I look on the comment section, and a lot of the community that follows extra credits are absolutely wonderful, and they're so supportive, even when we make a blunder or a mistake.
Yeah.
There's some mean fucking people. And I don't read the comments anymore. And it sucks because I'd love to interact with that part of the community more, but I'm actually afraid to. I've gotten into a thing where I read, especially in the beginning a couple months ago, where I read things about myself that made me not feel great at all. And but then I noticed that my work and my recording or whatever I was doing started to dip. Like the quality of it, because I wasn't excited. And I was like, this is because I let this garbage get in my head.
Yeah.
So I can relate very much to, you shake it off, you say, it's not important. But if you see it and you internalize it, it becomes important. And I could totally see how that moment for Ralph focuses. He was like, well, at least I got this one thing, which is not a healthy way to look at anything.
Yeah.
And then when that gets shattered, he becomes more and more toxic. Yeah. I think this movie is a wonderful film. I think it can teach a lot of people things in a comfortable and sort of safe-ish environment, but deals also with heavy topics that are not often dealt with in a film like this. And I think it has the wonderful ability to talk about specific topics without making you either eye roll or even kind of realize until afterward you were like, oh man, this is actually about this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I loved it. I would recommend everyone go see it regardless of your age.
Well, actually, that was an interesting thing. I went to a 10 o'clock screening, and there were a couple of very, very young kids in the audience. But again, it's not like the Deadpool scenario where I was like,
No.
I kind of like, it's Thanksgiving night. I get it. You know, like the only thing I really had a problem with was a guy who answered his phone during the movie.
Well, that's just a dickhead.
Other than that, no, it is a wonderful film. I think it really is smart in the way that, like, similar to the way that Inside Out kind of was smart about how to visualize this world that we all know and understand.
Yeah.
It didn't, like, emotionally, I think I wasn't 100% on board with the story, but for minor reasons, and it might be a case where I think I would watch this a second time and kind of feel that way. I also think this is one of those rare sequels that really improves upon the first one. It doesn't just come back to like rehash things they did in the first movie. I think it actually makes the first movie better. It expands the world in a sort of wonderful way. If they were to come back to this franchise, which is like it's a Disney property, then they're coming back to this. I would hope that they again kind of took the same approach to this, which is like, how do we escalate now beyond this?
Yeah.
So I think it's a wonderful time. I think it's a really strong Thanksgiving film as well. In so much as it appears around Thanksgiving, so you can go see it with your family, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So no, again, minor little nitpicks from me, but they're irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been the only podcast about the film Ralph Breaks the Internet. Shahir, when you are not using the internet for its one true purpose, where can folks find you?
You won't find me because that's all I'll be doing.
Oh,
no.
all right.
You can find me on my website, www.shahirdaud, SHAHIRDAUD.com. Matt, when you are not popping champagne off your butt, with just a pair of gloves. Is that what it was?
I don't remember.
That's how she broke the internet? That's what broke the internet?
It didn't, though. That was the ad campaign about it. Was it literally on the cover, on the picture, it said Kim Kardashian breaks the internet, and you're like,
no, it didn't.
Did she?
Yeah. No, but it did.
No, it didn't?
It did in so much as like everyone was talking about it. It was a moment on the internet, right? Like it was like a real moment.
Sometimes I'm thankful that the internet is so fast that like now that's just a joke.
Right. But it's a joke that has been incorporated into this title.
Listen, when I am not serving delicious, sweet French champagne from my posterior, pouring it as I sort of bend over to the side, fully clothed, probably in a four-piece suit.
No. You need to.
No. That's how I break the internet, is more cloth. You can find me at MATTHEWKROL.com for my life and works, or Skeletor, the number 4, PREZ on Instagram, or Emperor MSK on Twitter. Also, please check out Extra Credits, Extra History, Extra Mythology, and Extra Sci-Fi, which will be coming back in the beginning of January. That one's on hiatus. But we're doing Lord of the Rings and Dune.
And Dune.
Yeah.
There's
a series, so we're doing world builders. So we're talking about Herbert and Tolkien and like the different ways that they structured their stuff and how they were basically the blueprint for a lot of sort of epic sci-fi and epic fantasy.
Are you going to read the entire, including the Silmarillion?
We're getting there. It's a bit of a beast. Right now I'm trying to get through Dune. Dune, I'm liking Dune, but I think I'm liking Dune because it's slow and it's a slow burn, but like I've never been in a book club before. And something that Extra Credits is doing, actually, if anyone would like to join, 8 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesdays. We read 2 or 3 chapters. You have to read 2 or 3 chapters of Dune beforehand, I believe. When this comes out, we will be on chapters 15 and 16 for the next one.
Yeah.
Or 16 or 17 and 18. Either way.
You're in the teens.
Yeah. And I have never had a thing in real life or on the internet where we're doing this on Twitch. So check out Extra Credits on twitch.tv if you'd like to join in on our book club. But I'd never done a book club at all. And it makes reading it way more interesting because I'm I got thoughts.
Yeah. I love book clubs. I haven't been in one for a while, but I would say college, literature classes is pretty much just a sort of
a big old book club.
A book club that you're paying thousands of dollars for.
Jesus Christ. Well, this one's free. So if you want to check it out, check it out. With that, do we know what we're doing next week? I love this because we never talk about it until this moment.
Yeah, I think it's Widows. I think it's Widows.
Should we do Widows?
I think so.
Unless there's nothing new coming out. We'll check it out.
I think we should do Widows because I really enjoyed it. You know what? One thing about this episode that is kind of intriguing me, and to wrap it all out, is that this has been a really heartwarming episode.
Has it?
Yeah, I feel good inside. I feel warm and fuzzy. Sometimes we walk out of episodes where it's like, oh Jesus, the world fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Why? I feel good.
Yeah.
No, you feel good?
That's fair. Yeah, I feel good. I'm gonna go back and do a bunch more work today, but I'll be in a good mood doing it.
Yeah, I feel good.
All right. So hopefully those good vibes went to you as well, and we will have you hear us next week.
Maybe for some widowing.
I mean,
What is
sure. No one can hide from my side, Shahir.
What?
Yeah.
What was that?
Overwatch.
How would I know that?
I know.
That's like throwing a. Why
would I
know? That is terrible.
Hey,
You're terrible. You know those good vibes we just had?
Do you still feel good?
Gone.
Do you still feel good?
Gone.
It's high noon.
Is that Red Dead Redemption? I'm only knowing that because of what you're doing. No. Terrible.
No.
You're terrible.
Bye.